Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vedya Raminam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Bhadram Karne Vishnuyama Deva Bhadram Pashem Akshabhirya Jatra Sthiraya Rangai Stushtu Sastanubihi Vyashema Deva Hitam Yadayuhu Swasti Na Indro Vridhashravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastarsho Arishtanevihi Swasti no Brahaspatir Dadhatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So this morning we begin the third chapter of Vagoda Padikatika. And if I recall, I think it's titled Advaita Vikarana, non-dualism. So, just a little bit of introductory remarks. This is my particular viewpoint. The purpose of this particular chapter is to break down all the ideas that we have, because of which I think the phenomenal world is created, solid, ruled by cause and effect, and most importantly, other than me. We have a term in the tradition called Anyonya Adhyasa. Who remembers what that is? Yes, mutual superimposition, which means I superimpose upon myself the qualities of the not-self. And I superimpose upon the not-self the qualities of the self. What does that mean? I is the self, but I superimpose the body, the prana, the mind, the intellect, the vasanas on the self. I'm Jim. I was born in 1948. I live in Oakland. I'm a musician, etc., etc., etc. The other part of this, what is the truth about the phenomenal world? Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. It's all Brahman, all consciousness. But what do? I externalize the qualities of the self and superimpose them on the names and forms. So David is over there. I am here. He's other, separate. I take my sat and I externalize it. Most of the time, I think he's a conscious being. Are you a conscious being? Yes. Could be not. Point is, I take Chip and I make it over there. And I don't even like your consciousness. More importantly, I superimpose on it. I really like David. I'm happy when he's here. When he's not here, I'm not happy. So this mutual superimposition. What's the truth? Advaita. It's not two. I think I've shared this with you before. In my early sadhana, I used to say, why do we call it Advaita Vedanta? I think it should be Ekam Sat Vedanta, the one truth of Vedanta. And the reason is, at the moment of realization, it's not like everything disappears. It looks like two. I see a phenomenal world. I see stuff. It looks like two, but it's not two. Just like it looks like there's images in the mirror. Oh, they're so scary. There's this really old man who keeps looking at me from the mirror. I wish he'd go away. It looks like there's mirror plus reflection too. There's only mirror. And the reflection is the mirror itself appearing as pratibimba. Now, this will not yield the same thing as the fruit of practice. This non-dual direct experience is the fruit of intense meditation. Even more importantly, intense vairagya. Desire to give up attachment to all experiences gained through the senses, all the people, all the relationships, all the objects. My 401k. All of it. And the desire to let go of any personal senses self. Shankara thunders, it's the annihilation of the vasanas here and now. That's considered liberation. So the purpose of the third chapter is to at least get us to doubt the solidity, the concreteness, the reality of the world of name and form. go back to our definition of what's real. What's the definition philosophically of what's real?
That which is never negated.
Yes. That which is never subject to negation. Yes. It has a beginning and an end. If it occurs in time and space, if it's confined to the waking dream or deep sleep state, it has a name and form. Most importantly, remember our fourth Karika in the second chapter. The phenomenal world is quite unreal. The proof of its unreality is you can see it. If it is seeable, mithya, illusion, vaithatya, false. All right, let's start. Will you help us out, please, Puneet?
Upasana ashrito dharmo jate bhramani vartate pragutpatterajam sarvam tena sao kripana smritaha. The individual ego, taking to itself the path of devotion, upasana, imagines itself to be related to the Brahman, who is supposed by it as having manifested himself. Such an ego is said to be of narrow intellect because it thinks that before creation all was of the nature of the unborn reality.
So, what we have is a tension in the tradition. It's not a real tension. In the Vedas, we have what's called the karma kanda, the literally action portion. The earlier, older meaning of the word karma meant religious ritual, doing the enjoined yajnas, pujas, sacrifices, etc., that were enjoined upon various castes. So the jnana kanda, the knowledge portion, seems to be in conflict. I was working with a person for a short period of time. And we were working with the Dvaita Vedanta. I am Atma Brahma. The self is Brahman. And then he went to hear a talk at the ISKCON Center. That's the Hare Krishna folk. And the Swami there says, oh, no, the Advaitins are wrong. You are not God. Krishna is God. And what you need to do is worship Krishna. That's your salvation. So for those of us who come from a Christian background, it's not a whole lot different than the way Christianity is perceived. Love God. Love Jesus. And God is other. The 12-step traditions, they say the only thing you need to know about God is you're not it. And that is of value. Why? Because if we try to run our lives from the standpoint of individual, personal willpower, I am powerful as an ego. I can accomplish things. Look at me. I am better than others. I'm smarter than others. I can accomplish this. First of all, it's exhausting. And we're always confronted with the fact that hard work and desire don't always yield the fruits. I suspect there are many people in the country today who worked very hard to save a lot of money and invest in the stock market intelligently, prudently. The stock market crashes this past week. So Gita says, Krishna says in the Gita, I am the karma phala data. What does that mean?
Giver of fruits.
I am the giver of the fruits. You never know what's going to happen. So willpower falls short. So in the early stages of our spiritual life, the scriptures suggest Ishvara Pranidhana. What's that mean?
Surrender to God.
Trustful surrender to God. Second chapter of Yoga Sutra. Tapas Swadhyayeshwara Pranidhana Kriya Yoga. Austerity, tapas, swadhyaya. In the Raja Yoga tradition, it means a psychological inventory. Literally means self-study. In our tradition, it means our own study of scripture. But for Patanjali, it means a deep understanding of your character traits, your strengths, and your kleshas, your character defects. And then Ishvara Pranidhana, trustful surrender to God. This is called Kriya Yoga. What's the difference between Kriya and Karma?
Present tense and past tense.
Karma is a completed action. Kriya is an action that's going on in the present. Yes. So, those are the three elements. This is the path, even in Gita. Krishna says, for the vast majority. Arjuna asks Krishna, well, which is better, to worship God in his unmanifest form or as a form? How does Krishna answer that? Who remembers?
Sequential.
He doesn't really say it as sequential. What he basically says is these two paths are available, but it is difficult for the embodied to worship the Lord in his unmanifest form. For them, it is better to worship the Lord as a form. Now, we have to understand the deeper meaning, the exoteric understanding. Okay, as long as you have a physical body, you cannot worship God in his formless nature, worship God with a form. But the deeper meaning is when we are ego identified. That's the deeper meaning of embodied. When you're identified with your ego, trying to throw Vedanta at your problems is frequently not very efficacious. You have some huge crisis in your life and you're totally identified and you're triggered. That's the modern word they use, reactivity. To just say, it's not real, it's not real, it's not real. I am the self, I am the self, I am the self. Probably does very little good. Who's tried that and seen that it isn't too effective? What's more effective? Save me, O Lord, for I perish. Hold on to the feet of the Lord. Swamiji used to say, personal God is as real as your ego. I would modify it to say a personal God is as real as your body, mind, intellect. And he would say that person is the greatest of fools who asserts the reality in their mind of their ego sense, but denies the reality of a personal God. Because then all you're left with is your puny willpower and your compulsion to bludgeon events and control. So, in the early stages of our practice, we're invited to practice karma yoga, selfless activity, and bhakti yoga, worship, trustful surrender to God, or to use the term Gaudapada has, upasana. Upasana. Rooted in an understanding, I'm a person and infinite power is God out there. I can't, he can, I think I'll let him. It's the short answer. Morning, God. This is Jim reporting for duty. That's the path of bhakti. But here, Gaudapada is saying, it's a little pejorative. That's for narrow intellects. People with limited understanding. I would say that's certainly a particular stage of our unfolding. Going back to the 12-step tradition, there's been a new tome, a book, that's been put out by the Alcoholics Anonymous General Service Office. They call it the Plain Language Big Book. It's a reworking of the first 164 pages of the text, Alcoholics Anonymous. Because the vast majority of the people in the US today can't read above a 5th grade level. Not making this up. That's the state of our education today. So they have changed the language in the big book. So it's designed for a person with a 5th grade education. That's just useful. So we have to understand Upasana is not bad. It's for those of us with a 5th grade spirituality. Understand what I'm saying? It's not bad. It's useful for someone at that level of their unfolding. But here Gaudapada says, all right, this is for those of you who are ready for graduate level spirituality. I'm having a senior moment. Is it Cana that says it is not that which you worship here? I think it's Cana. It's not out there. All right, any thoughts on this first idea? So, from a practical standpoint, Do not let philosophical inconsistency be a barrier to quality of life. If your mind is sattvic, there are times when that personal sense of self is gone, then the personal God can go. Sarvam kalpidam brahma. It's all God. But if your mind is thick and you're in a reactive state and you're completely identified, avail yourself of the power of Upasana. You decide. A personal God is as real as your ego. Person who maintains the reality of their ego and denies the reality of a personal God has consigned themselves out of this. Any thoughts on this before we go on?
Jim, I'm a little confused between how do you maintain sankalpa or wish or a desire that you have with surrender? Like, what would be a prayer to?
Okay, excellent question. Did you all understand her question?
Sure.
It is this. In each ear is the loud trumpet of raga and dvesha. The raga says, I must have it this way in order to be happy. The dvesha says, it can't be this way or I will not be happy. We have to practice the vairagya, or the surrender, to silence those. Then we can drop in, listen to the intuition. Tuition means to teach. Intuition means the inner teacher. When you don't care about the outcome, then what arises is an unimpeded, uncontradicted, or conflicted sankalpa. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you're doing sankalpa from raga and dvesha, you might be able to manifest something. Oh, I want a Cadillac. I'm going to make a treasure map. There's the picture of my Cadillac. That Cadillac is coming to me now. Nothing impedes that. All the money is here. Cadillac, come to me. You can do that sankalpa. It might work. So all these new agey teachings don't deal with the fundamental erroneous idea, which is the Cadillac is going to make me happy. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
So, what is, well, I won't phrase it as a question. Tibetan Buddhism is probably the best known tantric tradition. And they make these beautiful, beautiful mandalas. Yeah. Made out of colored sand and stuff like that with these little pipettes and stuff like that. And they're for the benefit of the world. They are a sankalpa. But what do they do at the end of it? Why? Because what we have to do is we put forward our intention into the universe and let it go. If we hold on to it, that means, oh, there's some power, some force in the universe contrary to my idea. Do you understand that? An effective sankalpa takes no effort. For example, right now, your mind has the sankalpa that you have a physical body. You don't wake up in the morning and go, fleshy body, fleshy body, fleshy body. Do you?
No.
It's just there in the background. Just like you don't work very hard to make your dream body. So many people have a partial understanding of the law of sankalpa. It is not about willpower. It's about knowing.
Effortless.
So what does it mean to consistently maintain a sankalpa if you are only doing it once and getting it done?
It's when the opposite idea comes in that discounts it. You may have the intention, oh, I want to start my own company, be my own CEO. And then the next day you may have the idea, I really don't want to work. It's so much easier just to get a paycheck. Does that make sense?
I see. Yeah.
So it's not consistently maintained.
So would a good prayer be, I surrender, just give me the strength for whatever that is to come?
Or you could do, God, show me what your will is and give me the intention and the strength to do your will. That's done in a dualistic way. And it's fine. Again, don't let philosophical inconsistency be a barrier to your happiness. I have what I call my signals. I mean, that's just what I call them. I'll give you a clear example. So when this was the year 2000, I applied for the job as director of music at St. Augustine. I went for the audition, and they were auditioning me, but I was auditioning them. I thought they were just cuckoo for all these little power structures in the choir, and this one lady who was not a musician decided she was going to choose all the repertoire and all this weird stuff. I was driving home with this guy, Silas, who had picked me up and driven me there. And I said, Silas, you guys are cuckoo. I'd be nuts to take this job. Now, mind you, they'd been trying to fill this job for a year and a half. And Silas got very quiet. He said, Jim, will you pray about it? And I said, yes, I promise you that I will pray about it. I sat in this chair. Not this chair, it was 3 generations earlier, but same kind of chair, same place. And so I asked, I said, okay, God, should I take this job? Now, I've done this for so many years. I have incredible trust in my intuition. I let go. I didn't care whether I got it or didn't get it. And my sense of rightness, the signal says, Jim, take the job. It's contrary to my rational mind. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
How do I know I'm doing God's will? God's will brings us peace. That's your best test. And your heart's deepest desire and the will of God are the same thing. Not the surfacey kind of desires. And sometimes when I ask that question, okay, God, should I do this? You get yes, no, or I'm not telling you. Yeah. Gotta be willing to take any answer. Is that useful?
Yeah, thank you.
But do not confuse that deep intuitive knowing with the raga. For those of us from the Judeo-Christian background, this is what the prophet Isaiah called the still small voice. God is not in the thunder, God is not in the wind, God is not in the mountain. It's the still small voice. Doesn't mean there's, Jim, I'm going to tell you what to do. It's not that. It's this deep intuition. And it's a working part of the mind. My modern day example is if you're running on ego, it's like you have a desktop computer with a tower. But if you start to practice trusting your intuition, then you hook into the cloud. Not an iCloud, it's an iGod. But you have an access to infinite wisdom. Yogi learns to live from a deep place of spontaneity. And it's not based on the inner 2-year-old. What's the inner 2-year-old? I don't want to eat my broccoli. I want ice cream. That's not intuition. It's not intuition. The intuition has to come from the place of complete renunciation of the fruits of the action. Well, it's not what I planned on talking about this morning, but it's good stuff.
Very good.
Very
Thank
good
you.
stuff. Any thoughts or questions about this? All right, next, Karika.
Ato vyakshyamya karpanyam ajati samatam gatam yatha na jayate kinchit jaya manam samantatah. Therefore, I shall now describe to you that Brahman which is free from limitations, unborn and homogeneous, and from which nothing is in reality born, though it appears to have manifested in endless forms everywhere.
Yes, so we have a technical term, jati. What does jati mean? There's a modern usage of the word. In Hindu society, what does jati mean?
Caste.
More than caste, it's like your family profession. Isn't it cut down even
Which I think
further?
was the caste system in some ways.
Yes, yes. But it's what you do, what you're born to do. Remember those of us who study Gita. In 4th chapter, Krishna says, I am the author of the fourfold caste. And he doesn't say janma. He doesn't say jati. He says guna and karma. real caste system, the origin of it is based on qualities of mind and your actions, not your birth. Who here is doing the same job as their father or mother? Jati, you're not doing it right, according to the old-timey way. Whereas a couple hundred years ago, if your father was a barber, you became a barber. If your father was a fisherman, you became a fisherman. So you have to understand this distinction. The deeper meaning of jati here is that into which you are born. So philosophically, jati means unborn. Now, this is philosophically in tension with the whole doctrine of reincarnation. Second chapter of Gita, Krishna says, just as a person casts off worn out clothes, so the embodied soul casts off these bodies and takes up new ones. Why should we grieve over the death of the body? Implication is there is a thing called a transmigrating soul that goes from incarnation to incarnation. You evolve. You started off as a rock, and then you became a plant, then a lizard, then maybe a bird, then a tiger or a lion. Then you decided to be a vegetarian and became an antelope. And then finally, after thousands and thousands, maybe millions of lifetimes, you become a person. Shankar even talks about this in the early part of the Viveka Chudamani. Then thousands and thousands of human lives. The Buddha talks about that. I know all my past lives. So the implication is being born, taking up a body. It's part of the teaching of the tradition. Gaudapada says it's a partial understanding. Four-year-old comes into the kitchen and says, "Mommy, where do babies come from?" Mommy says, "The stork brings them to eat your cereal." Or the 6-year-old eyes are as wide as saucers because Santa Claus put out cookies and milk for Santa Claus the Christmas Eve. Oh. Does the stork bring babies? Is Santa Claus real? Not in the literal sense. Or even a better metaphor. Is Newtonian physics real? Newtonian physics say that bodies fall towards the earth at the rate of 32 feet per second per second. If you go up to the Tower of Pisa and you have a bowling ball and an apple and you drop them both at exactly the same time, they'll hit the earth at exactly the same time. Is that true? Do we have any scientists with us?
There's a slight difference, I think, because of the gravitational force that, because of the weight, causes the
It's
attraction.
immeasurable because the mass of the earth is so great in comparison to the bowling ball or the apple.
But there is a difference.
But it's immeasurable. Newtonian physics would say they're not. Is time a constant? No. Newtonian physics would say it is. You can measure it, it's always the same. 1 hour in Egypt is the same as 1 hour in New York. Yet now we know if you're on a spaceship going to Andromeda Galaxy and it's able to approach the speed of light as an ion drive, 100 years to get there, 100 years to get back. People on the ship would experience 200 years of time passing, but 1,000,000 years would have passed on Earth. So for 99% of all our interactions, Newtonian physics works just fine. But it is a partial truth. So also, the doctrine of reincarnation is a partial truth. Let me explain it to you. I have here a mug of cold coffee. The mug is like the physical body. The coffee is like the subtle body. Yourself is like the space in the cup. Not making this up, by the way. Gatakash is a whole thing that Shankara talks about. I'm not using a pot, I'm using a coffee cup. So if the cup breaks, does anything happen to the space? No. If I pour the coffee from one cup to another cup, does anything happen to the space? Here's cup space, here's room space. I move the cup. Is space being moved? No. You are not in the body. It feels like I'm someplace inside and I'm looking out of my senses. Are you in the body or is the body in you? Best way again to deal with this is go to the dream state. In the dream state, I have a dream body, which, like the waking state, is a locus of perception. I look out of the dream body at the dream world. But are you in the dream, or is the dream in you? Or to put it more specifically, do you incarnate into the dream? You are ajati, unborn. We can even look at it within the context of one lifetime. So Soundarya, where did you grow up?
In Bangalore, India.
Bangalore. And where did you go to college?
Also in Bangalore.
And when did you come to the United States?
2011.
2011. And where did you live?
In the US?
Yeah.
Oh, I was living in Pittsburgh,
Pittsburgh. And then where did you live after that?
in California.
California. And how many houses in California have you lived in?
3 or 4.
And have you not been the same you? Even though all these houses have changed. Completely different environments and different houses. Different activities, student, work here, work there.
Different body, different mind states.
You are a changeless reality. So if just within the context of one lifetime, we could say you were born into the home in Bangalore, then reborn into the home in Pittsburgh, and then reborn again 3 times in California or more. But have you changed? Self never is born. And that appears to contradict the Karmakanda teaching of the Vedas. So we have to hold this tension that the asana, the karma kanda, the worship portion, the scriptures that teach the doctrine of reincarnation are giving us a useful teaching for the person who's identified with either the physical body or the subtle body. Quick review. What's the subtle body?
Thoughts and feelings.
A
My thoughts and feelings.
little more than that.
Memories.
5 organs of action, 5 organs of knowledge, the prana, the mind, the buddhi intellect, chitta, mind stuff, memory, etc., ahankriti. And depending on which scripture you're using, it includes the vasanas. Sometimes the vasanas are split away into a cause body. Why do we include those earlier things? Because you run around in a dream, you have thought, you have actions, sense perceptions in a dream. So those are in the subtle body. They function through the physical body in the waking state. But all of the elements of the subtle body are jada. What's jada?
No.
Inner. One feeling doesn't know another feeling. One thought doesn't know you're told. You illumine all of the elements of this conglomerate called the subtle body. But you are unattached. Just like you have a dream on Monday and you have a different dream on Wednesday, do you dream reincarnate from one dream to another? Why do you think you reincarnate one lifetime to another. You are not in the dream. The dream is in you. And in truth, the dream isn't even really in you. You dream about a horse. You don't wake up in the morning with a horse in bed with you. Unborn. Jati. Next karika.
आत्मा ह्याकाशवज्जीवै घटाकाशोऽयि त्रिवोदितः घटादिवच्च सन्धातै जाता वेतन्निदर्शनम्. The Akasha, like Atman, manifesting in the form of the separative egos, may be compared with the pot space. Again, as pot space is said to be produced from the total space, so gross forms are said to be created from the reality. This is the illustration for the manifested world.
He read my mind. Is cup space produced from room space? Do we cut off pieces of room space? What is the relationship between room space and cup space?
Same.
It is one homogeneous field. So the term that Gaudapada, no, it wasn't Gaudapada, the Upanishad used, Vijnana Gana, a homogeneous mass of consciousness. Myself is going round and round. This job, that relationship, this home, that home, Bangalore, Pittsburgh, California. What's happening to the space? Nothing. Don't believe me. In a thin mind, Tanu Manasa, introvert the light of the mind. Notice yourself. See if you are ever other than not Gatakash, pot space, but Chidakash, space of pure awareness. There's a story in Yoga Vasishta. There's a fellow who had this strange idea. Oh, I need to protect space. So he builds a house to protect space. And in time, the house falls down. And he grieves. He doesn't grieve the loss of the house. He grieves the loss of the space. But then he digs a well to protect space. In time, the well caves in, and he grieves. He does not grieve the loss of the well. He grieves the loss of the space. I am so upset. I'm going to be poor. I lost my job. And eventually, I have cancer. I am going to die. You go wherever. Only the cup or the pot or the house or the barn or the well changes. Space goes. Again, don't believe me. All right, next one.
Ghata dishu pralineshu घटाकाशादयो यथा आकाशे सम्प्रलीयन्ते तद्वज्जीवा इहात्मनि. Just as when the pots are broken, the pot space and so on gets merged with the supreme Akasha. Similarly, the separate egos also merge in the Atman.
And language falls short. In fact, nothing happens to the space when you break the pot. I just call it pot space. Nothing happens to the space. And look to our direct experience. Gautapada's time, they didn't have cameras. But if you've got a picture album, anybody here have a family album where you have baby pictures and school age photos and high school and stuff? Picture of your prom. All the girls were taller than me in those days. All these bodies have changed. But one of the things I share with other older people, if you sit in a chair, you're in a comfortable position so nothing hurts, there's no mirror around. You don't feel any differently than you did as a kid. Who's had that experience? Why? Not only is yourself birthless, yourself is ageless. You are always you. Now, in 16th verse, second chapter of Gita, our poet Vyasa plays with these words Sat and Bhava. Michael and I were talking about this, this past week. He basically says only Bhava, which means being, has Sat, real existence. Things that don't exist are imaginary. The horns of the hare, the child of the barren woman, the castle in the clouds. If it doesn't have or isn't Bhava, being, doesn't exist. It's imagination. Language falls short here. You are not an it. You are not a thing. You are not void. You are being. You are a conscious, sentient being. I usually think, well, it's because I'm a person, I have feelings. No, You know your feelings, you know your thoughts. You are a being. You are the self is Baba, being itself. It's not inert, it's not jada. We're the only being. Everything else is jada, inert. Everything else is nitya. We discussed in the last chapter. You go nowhere. You are achalam. You never move. Earthless, changeless. So physical space is shunya, void. But Chidakash, the space of pure awareness, is Purnam. What does Purnam mean? Complete. Complete. Any other definitions for it? Full. Full being.
What do you mean by physical space?
Like the space in the room, outer
Okay,
space.
okay.
Subtler than physical space. It's the space of consciousness. That makes sense?
Yes.
God is so alive, so present, so here, so changeless, so conscious, so you. Okay, we'll end here. Which one are we on for next week?
Number 5.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.